Let me start off by saying thank you for joining us today for one of our first seminars. We do a lot of immigration videos, but this is one of our first live videos that we're putting out there to help people. A little bit about myself. My name is Anthony Ray. I'm the principal attorney here at Ray Law International. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and Ray Law International has been as a law firm for over 15 years, practicing throughout the country and throughout the world. We represent clients throughout the U.S., a lot of corporations and individuals. And also, we have 3 offices. We have offices located in Chicago, Illinois, Fort Lee, New Jersey, close to New York, and then also in the Detroit area in Novi, Michigan. Our team is always open and ready to help our clients, and we're very responsive and making sure that their cases are taken care of and moving forward. So I'm going to jump right into our slide presentation for today and our topic for today. Today, we're going to talk about labor certification. Now, as we go through this, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat and we'll address those at an appropriate time as we go through. Now, the title for today is Labor Certification PERM process. What is my attorney doing and why is it taking so long? We get a lot of concerns and questions about that, so that's our topic today. Again, give you a little background of Ray Law International. Told you a little bit about our history. We represent startup companies all the way up to, companies that are multi-billion-dollar companies. Our strategy, our service really doesn't change. It's to communicate effectively, give excellent solutions, and then to deliver on those solutions. We have several attorneys that help support the firm and a great support staff. Various languages. I speak Japanese. We also have Spanish and others so that we can support our clients for their needs. We talked about the locations. Even though we are located in 3 separate states, New Jersey, Michigan, and Chicago, that's really not our boundaries. We are able to service and we communicate no matter whether, wherever you are. We have clients I'm going to be speaking with in Africa tomorrow. So it really doesn't matter where we are. We're able to connect nowadays, especially with technology, to reach out to all of our clients and potential clients. Our representation is key. That's why our clients choose us and that's why they like us, is because how we respond, how responsive we are. And of course, the results, that's without, question. That's why they hire attorneys in the first place. Why Ray Law International? Communication. We're going to take care of you. You're not going to wait 2 or 3 days for a response. And we really care about our clients, whether it's corporate or individual. We're going to go, the extra length to make sure that everyone is comfortable and everyone is taken care of. But more importantly, that you get your green card or the visa that you're seeking. So in today's seminar, what we're going to cover is up on the screen is we're going to talk about the labor certification PERM process. Preparation, prevailing wage, recruitment. The first, what I call, is the waiting period, where you got to wait a long time for something to happen or for the next action to take place. Then there may be issues such as qualified applicants, application submission. That's where we're submitting the labor certification application with the Department of Labor. We'll touch on that. Then the second waiting period. Now, if there's an audit, which is the next portion we'll go over, then there's an additional waiting period that we're going to have to address. The validity period is regarding the labor cert, and we'll touch on that when we get to that. Now, before we get started into this, we also have to look specifically at what's our universe here. Our universe is the employment-based green card options, and we have 5 categories here. Now, What we're going to be touching on regarding the labor certification process is really we're going to be touching on the EB2 and the EB3, or the second preference employment-based category, or the third preference employment-based category. So it's going to be EB2 and the EB3 that we're focused on. Obviously, in future webinars, we'll talk about all of these, but with today's limited time, we want to touch on just the labor certification process. Now, the green card process is broken. I usually break it down into three parts. First, we have sort of the labor certification process, which you can see on the screen. That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, what we're not going to talk about today is the remaining two parts. The second stage, or the second step, is the immigrant petition. That's where the employer is petitioning on behalf of the beneficiary. And then the third process is the actual green card process, or the application for adjustment of status, or the application to adjust status. We'll talk about those in later scenarios. Also, you can see there, a lot of this will depend on your priority date and what country you're a national of, what country you were born in, to see whether you can move quicker or not. Also, and later we'll talk about how spouses can kind of speed up that process, so you're not waiting 6, 7, 10, 12 years for this process to go through. So we're going to focus on the first step. So let's see. Let's see. Good. So we're going to go to our the first part. And up in the top, you'll see all those questions that we get from beneficiaries. You know, why is it taking so long? What is my attorney doing? So the first one is, what is my attorney doing? So when we start the labor certification process, these are a couple of the things, or a few of the things, that your attorney is going to be doing in the background, whether you're HR, you know, and you're outsourcing, or whether you're the employee and, you know, working together. This is what's going on. First, the attorney is going to be collecting that information. What information? Information about the employer, information about the actual position that the beneficiary or the employee is supposed to fill and that we're going to recruit for. Also, information about the actual applicant. We want to make sure that the applicant is going to qualify for whatever position that we draft. Another thing that we do at this stage is we get information about the company, but we also have to register the company with the Department of Labor. And also, and there's two levels of that. One, our office, we work individually with the states when we do our prevailing wages and also our recruitment. We encourage our employees to do that. However, there is the American Job Bank, or U.S. Job Bank, that is more universal, covers all the states. It does cost money, whereas the local state placements for the DOL is done at no charge. So we're going to register the company at the Department of Labor. That's at the major federal level, where we're going to make sure that the company has an FEIN number, and that company name and the address and all that coincides. So we get that registered. Now, sometimes we'll have an employer where there's information has changed. Maybe the employer has moved their address. Maybe they changed it with the IRS, but now with the Department of Labor or with the state. So we make sure all of that gets updated and connected early on in the process, so that when it comes later on to submit our labor certification, we're not delaying that process. So we want to get that done. Also, we also want to register with the state unemployment agency, or the state job bank. And most employers who have been in business for some time, you know, they're going to already know exactly their username and password. Some who have not, startups or smaller companies, maybe you don't have as many employees, or haven't fired or let any employees go, then we're going to need to make sure you're registered and make sure that that's all taken care of. Employers, a recommendation, make sure employers have a universal email that everyone has access to, and not just one HR person or one individual, in case that person should leave and you close down that email account. Now, next, we're at this preparation stage, your attorney is going to be drafting the recruitment or working with the HR and making sure that the ad and everything meets all the requirements. The reason why you're hiring an attorney is to make sure you meet all the elements. Through this process, there are multiple rules that you must meet, and if you don't meet them, then unfortunately you're going to have to do the whole process all over again. So to avoid that additional cost and delay, you really want to have an attorney on board to make sure that each and every step is done properly, make sure each step is done, but also that the drafting and everyone qualifies at the very beginning. You don't want to draft an ad where the applicant doesn't even qualify because maybe they weren't able to get an experience letter or certification or degree certificate or a special skill in a particular area. So you're going to want to make sure that you take care of that. Next. Also, feel free, if you have questions as we go through this step by step, feel free to ask questions, put those in the chat. Those who joined us after we got started, I just did a brief introduction about the firm and who we are and our offices and a little bit about, why Ray Law International. Right now, we're at the prevailing wage level. So now, once we've drafted our advertisement, the employer, we all know what the minimum requirements are for the position. We're now going to apply for and request a prevailing wage. We need a prevailing wage determination. And your prevailing wage determination, I have a picture of Form 9141. A lot of attorneys use that terminology, but the application for prevailing wage determination. So your attorney, what they're doing in the background is they're filling out this form and putting everything together, making sure everything is done properly. Certain things, if you miss information or if you don't put in the proper location or if it's a roaming employee, you could jeopardize the process later on. So this is a very critical part of the entire process. Next is submission of the prevailing wage. We always do it electronically. That's the quickest way. And there is, for people who may not have access to a computer, you could do it by mail-in. We've had no problems doing it electronically. Now, processing times. People are wondering, well, how long is this prevailing wage going to take? So what you want to do is you want to visit the flag system, which is also a system set up by the Department of Labor. This sort of replaces the iCert system. So here we have information about processing times by the Department of Labor. For prevailing wage determinations, recently in our office, we had been seeing 3 to 4 months. We've had a couple go just beyond 4 months. So we're hoping that the Department of Labor will continue to speed up those processes so that they can get those prevailing wages back to us. Why is the prevailing wage even important? We need that before we can finish up recruitment and also before we submit our actual labor certification application. Okay, those are processing times. Now, recruitment. Once we submitted, once we've got our prevailing wage determination back, we can finish up our recruitment. There are normally for professionals, depending on what category you're filing under the EB2, EB3, your recruitment requirements are going to vary. So for professionals, you're going to need 6 forms of recruitment. For others, for non-professionals, you don't have to recruit as much. You can choose less than that. But what the attorney is going to be doing at this time is drafting all those recruitment documents, those 6 things. They're going to be assisting HR, the employer, to make sure that they have all 6 done, track the timing, making sure that everything is posted properly. The attorney may or may not facilitate the employer's recruitment. Obviously the employer has to do the recruitment, but the attorney is there in a supportive role to make sure that things are done, to guide them, to talk to them about the regulations and things that need to happen in order for there to be a successful and complete recruitment process. Now, timing for recruitment is very simple. Um, Normally, we try to do it within 30 days. That's the best case scenario. Now, you can go beyond the 30 days, and that's all right, but that sort of pushes your timing for submitting the labor certification to a later time or date. Now, the timing, typically what we like to set up are when we talk to clients is 30 days recruitment and then a 30-day wait period. We'll be talking about the wait period in a minute. Okay. Another thing your attorney is going to be doing, and what we really love to do, is follow up to make sure, and I follow up with all our clients, make sure it's done. Give me documentation. I don't want to just hear it. I want to see the documentation and proof that something was posted internally or posted on the employer's website, or if you're doing a mass email to all your employees. We want to see all that to verify. That's the support that we have. If there's issues, you know, maybe something was missing or left off. For example, the internal job posting has to have the prevailing wage determination wage on there. So you want to make sure that that's going to be on there and that everything is covered. The attorney is going to be following up and taking care of that. So, as I just mentioned, we have that 30-day waiting period that we just talked about. And that starts at the end of once all your recruitment is done. So if you're fortunate to get all your recruitment done in 30 days, great. You wait 30 days and then 31st day or the 61st day, if there's no response, then you can go ahead and submit your labor certification. Um, so during this waiting period, as I just mentioned, we'll talk about a little about what's going to happen, but the attorney is going to reconfirm to make sure all recruitment is done, to get tear sheets from newspapers. Yep, we're still posting ads in newspapers. And make sure that everything is collected in the event that there's an audit. Okay. Now, what happens during this waiting period or even through the recruitment period, we have a qualified applicant. So the employer is supposed to proceed in their normal process. They shouldn't be going to their attorney and say, hey, what do I do? You handle that applicant the same way you would any other applicant that applies for a position at your company. And what they're doing is reviewing resumes to see if they're qualified. If someone doesn't have the records, the required amount of experience, then they're disqualified, and a letter is sent out to them, and that's tracked and verified. Also, the employer will be keeping all of those resumes related to that position that's being offered. In our office, and many other attorneys, we always put a reference number in the ad so we can know in case we have multiple different positions being offered that may not be related to the labor certification process. If the person does qualify and meets the minimum requirements, then you have to go and do an interview. Um, make sure that all the documents, for example, if we have a doctor, you want to make sure that the person actually has the license in order to practice. So you want to check those documentations, and the attorney is going to support the employer to make sure they collect the proper information, how to handle it, how to process it properly for tracking information, whether it's certified mail or FedEx, to make sure that everything is documented in case there's an audit. Now, if applicable, the applicant, someone who applies for the position, and then goes to the interview, may be disqualified. Maybe they don't want to work full time. They only want to work 35. Maybe they got family at home. So there may be other reasons that a person may not qualify for the position, or maybe they don't want to travel or commute or work within the business hours. So there's many ways that people may or may not be qualified, and this is what happens during that interview process. Finally, some employers are looking for multiple individuals for a particular position. Maybe you need three engineers, three software engineers, and you put one out there. So typically we put multiple openings so that people know there's more than one position available. And then what happens is, so if someone does qualify, great, you hire them, you move them on. You're still looking for two seats to fill. So that's how that works. All right. Now, let's say we get to the point, we've gone through our interviews, we have no one that's qualified or no one responded. We move forward to the application process or the submission of the labor certification. Now, remember, as I go through this process, feel free to put any questions you have in the chat, or feel free to do that, and we'll address those as they come up, okay? Um, Under the application submission process, what we're going to do is done online. It can be submitted through mail, but the quickest way, the most efficient way is to input everything online. Now, back at the beginning of our discussion, we talked about registering the company or organization with the Department of Labor so that once we get to this point, we can jump right in. Now, during that waiting period, even before now, our attorneys, we're going to prepare the labor certification application or Form 9089. And we're going to have that ready to go. We're going to have the employer review it. And then after review, normally to make sure that all the information in there is correct, then we're going to submit that electronically. Now, what happens? Now, remember, this is all done, where the applicant can't see. They don't have a clue what's going on, but this is all what's going on in the background. So after that application is submitted, the employers will actually receive a questionnaire when they're represented by an attorney to confirm that the application that was submitted is on behalf of the company and they want to proceed. So if you don't answer that questionnaire, then the application that was submitted electronically could be rejected, which we don't want. So we always follow up with the employer to make sure they got the email. A good rule or a thing you should do is make sure you add the DOL email to your contacts so that it doesn't go into spam or junk mail. You want to add that to your contacts so it comes into your inbox and you're able to address that. Now, once the employer has completed the questionnaire, then it goes forward. That's sort of when the clock starts. Now, let's say afterwards there's a problem. Maybe the employee quits. You can withdraw your application and stop the process at that time. And there's no penalty. There's no cost actually for this submission. At this time, the Department of Labor doesn't even charge employers for anything. This is all, taken care of by the Department of Labor. There's no filing fees or anything for submitting the form. Or maybe there's a problem. Someone says, oh, by the way, I forgot about this experience I wanted to add into my labor certification. Well, you can withdraw it and then complete it and then resubmit a new one. That's perfectly okay. You wouldn't be submitting, once you withdraw, you can't submit the one you just withdrawn. So you have to submit a new one, and that's perfectly okay. We rarely do that. Of course, we're going to check and have everyone review it beforehand so we don't run into those situations. Now, here's a picture of the 9089, the first portion, kind of some of the information. You'll see that the attorney is preparing for the employer's review. Basically, the attorney prepares all this, and then we usually print it out in a PDF and send it over to our employers so they can review quickly and let us know if there's any changes, such as phone numbers or the contact person or anything along those lines. Processing times, now we wait. So we've submitted it. How long does it take? We'll talk about that in a second. We're going to talk about checking updates and notifications. So processing times, again, we're going to go to the flag system, and the Department of Labor does post this. It's not really specific, and you really can't hold the Department of Labor to these processing times. You can't compel them to say, okay, it's been 5 days. Why isn't this case certified or reviewed? But this gives you an idea of how long both an audit review will take and then a regular review. So that's all available online through the flag system. All right, hold on just a moment. I want to go back. Now, checking the status. Now, this labor certification process application that's submitted is only viewable by the employer and the employer. There's really no option for the applicant or any other individual to look at it from the outside while the case is pending. So oftentimes what we'll do is if there's a question every 3 months or 4 months, if someone wants an update, the attorney can go in, check the status. I usually do a screenshot or use snipping tool and get a picture and send it in an email to let people know that, hey, here's the case number, it's still pending, everything is good. The Department of Labor doesn't give any more details other than it's submitted, pending, and approved or denied. So there's nothing to really provide any additional information. Also, notifications. The Department of Labor will send notifications via email to both the employer and the employee, whether there's an audit or whether there is a approval or a decision. All right. Now, what happens in an audit? Let's say the case is audited. Right now, the department is sending out emails to both the employer and the attorney. And in that email, we'll get an attachment with the audit requesting additional information. Of course, all the recruitment that we just did, the 6 forms for professionals, and then any additional information. For example, if there's a business necessity, such as a language requirement or something that goes beyond what the Department of Labor has established as normal, you're going to have to provide documentation and explanation for that. Documents, the attorney is going to accumulate all those documents, help the employer prepare those, and get them ready for submission. Once they're all set, signed, all set, you're going to submit those. Now, the submission, what we normally do is by paper. We usually FedEx that down to Atlanta. Sometimes we may have documentations that may exceed a certain amount. I believe there is a process for us to respond electronically, but it really depends on the case. We can do either way. Now, why would someone get an audit? As I kind of hinted to earlier, the reason for getting an audit might be a language requirement. Let's say you need someone to speak Spanish in that position, and the Department of Labor really wants to confirm why. Okay, give me proof that there's a need for someone to speak Spanish in this role. Now, a lot of attorneys will say if you have a language requirement or certain requirements that it's an automatic audit. Now, remember, the process is random. We've had cases with language requirements that did not receive an audit and they were approved. Others we have. So the key is to be prepared for the audit. Let's move on. Now, after you submit your audit, there's another waiting period. There's a lot of waiting in this process. That's why we always encourage both the employer and the employee to start early. Don't wait until you only have got, 1 or 2 years left in your H-1B status, E or L, or whatever, or even TN. Start the process early, plan. If the employer is hesitant, they want to wait a year, wait that year, but get things ready so that both the employee and the employer are ready to go, because this whole process can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. And if there's an audit, then you're adding on an additional 6 months. Now, processing time, we're going to look at, I think we looked at that. We're going to look at this sheet again. This gives a snapshot of the audit review, of how long it takes. Now, the calendar days, it's really from the date that the labor certification was submitted. So it's not from the date that it was audited. So, don't worry about that. But as you can see, at 317 days, you're already at a year with an audit for them to get to it. Going back, outcomes. Now, with an outcome, in most cases, as it should be, if you're doing everything properly, the labor certification should be approved or certified. And once it's certified, that allows us to move to the second stage. We're not going to talk about the second and third stage, but it allows you to proceed. Another outcome might be that for some, usually a technical reason, the Department of Labor may say, hey, there's a problem with this case, and it's not going to be approved. And they'll give you detailed as to why the labor certification was denied. Now, oftentimes the Department of Labor will easily and lightly say, oh yeah, just go ahead and file another one. But you got to remember, we just spent 6 to 9 months doing all this work, spending thousands of dollars both on recruitment and on an attorney, and we've got to do it all over again. So for the Department of Labor to say that, it's very easy. They have no skin in the game, so to speak. But you have to see whether it's appropriate to go to the third bullet point there and whether to appeal or request a reconsideration or redetermination. Another another outcome that may happen is that um, the Department of Labor may say, hey, we want to do a supervised recruitment. Now, we haven't done supervised recruitment, normally in over a decade, many years since they went to the RIR recruitment and recruitment and reduction process. But we did have one case where they asked us to do the recruitment. So we did do supervised recruitment with one of our companies, and that moved forward. It's just having the Department of Labor checking everything and verifying and being involved throughout the process. Now, the Department of Labor normally doesn't do that. It's very random. We don't know why that particular case was flagged out of thousands of cases, but that may just be an anomaly. All right. Now, we are nearing the end of this labor certification process. And here we're talking about the validity period, okay? Are we there yet? And we pretty much are. Once we get the labor certification certified or approved, that labor certification is valid for only 180 days. In the old days, they used to be validated, valid forever, which was great. And you could switch back and forth, but those days have long since passed. So now they're only valid for 180 days. One of the things the attorney is going to do at this point is look at the visa bulletin, depending on where that person is from. So if they're from China, India, or the Philippines, or one of those countries where there may be a backlog and delays, we're going to look at that to see whether we can proceed with just the immigrant petition with the employer, or whether we can file both the green card application and the employer's petition at the same time. Once we've double checked that and checked their nationality to make sure everything is okay, we then can move on to the immigrant petition stage. Again, that's where the employer is petitioning on behalf of the employee. And at that stage, the employer is simply providing evidence that, one, they have the ability to pay the prevailing wage determination, the prevailing wage that we talked way back at the beginning. You want to make sure that they can pay that. They'll show that by their financial statements and everything. And then we also want to make sure that the beneficiary or the applicant qualifies for the ad. So that's what the USCIS. So at that immigrant petition stage, we're moving from the Department of Labor to the USCIS. So different government bureau, totally different environment, so different focus on what's going on. And that last bullet point, if you're from probably a majority of the countries, you're going to be able to file both that immigrant petition and application for adjustment of status together, which is great because you want to move the process quickly. And the quickest way of doing that is including that adjustment of status application together. All right. So for my initial presentation, that's what I wanted to get across to you guys today. If you have questions, feel free to, just let me know. Here's some contact information. Here, feel free to email us. You can reach out to us. We have information, other videos, interesting, really on various topics, on this topic and others, on YouTube, Facebook. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. That's what's available. Feel free to give us a call at any of these locations. And just a moment, let me see if we have any questions from our audience. I want to feel free if you have any questions from today, go ahead and put those in before we end. Just a moment. Okay. Any questions from our audience at this time? Any questions? Hopefully, the point of this video is to be informative, but also give you some insight into the process. Want to make sure that you guys kind of understand a little bit better. If there's any questions, about what we talked about today, don't hesitate to reach out to myself. We have other great attorneys, Lauren Pardis, and a great support staff to take care of you. Everyone, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for being with us today. We look forward to putting a new other content out there probably in a couple weeks. So keep an eye out for that and we'll keep you posted. Thank you for joining us, and everyone have a wonderful and safe day.